On Valentine's Day, the manager of the romantic restaurant I frequented sent me a video. In it, my fiancée was having a candlelit dinner with an intern from South University. Watching their intimate display, I turned around and immediately cut off all of her credit cards, even repossessing the villa where her parents lived. Later, when my fiancée knelt on the floor begging for my forgiveness, I watched her with cynical amusement. "Victoria Ashwood, isn't this everything you wanted? Oh, by the way, you and Ethan Miller won't be making it as a couple, but you two might make a fine pair of sisters." That Valentine's Day, I was holding a property deed, a small smile on my face. My fiancée, Victoria, had said she loved watching the ocean, so I'd bought a seaside villa specifically as a gift for her. All she needed to do was sign the contract, but just then, the manager of my usual restaurant sent me that video. In it, my fiancée was enjoying a candlelit dinner with an intern. My expression instantly turned to ice. It seemed this villa would not be given away after all. The restaurant wasn't far from my office. After a moment's thought, I decided to go see it for myself. When I arrived, Victoria Ashwood was deep in pleasant conversation with the intern. He was leaning in close to her ear, whispering something, their bodies practically touching. Victoria was blushing, and the intern's eyes were full of tenderness. Anyone seeing them would assume they were a couple in the throes of new love. I walked calmly towards their table. Hearing my approach, Victoria looked up. Panic flashed across her face when she saw me. They both instantly sat up straight, their smiles frozen. Victoria hastily smoothed her slightly disheveled hair to hide her embarrassment. She stood and took my arm, her tone laced with a fawning quality. "Sincere, what are you doing here?" I glanced at her, then at the intern. She immediately understood my meaning. "Oh, I forgot to introduce you. This is Ethan Miller, a neighbor from my childhood. I ran into his uncle at dinner the other day, and he mentioned Ethan was looking for an internship, so I arranged one for him at the company. Don't overthink it. I've always seen Ethan as a little brother." I noticed the intern's eyes dim for a moment, a wounded look on his face. Victoria sat back down. I chuckled. "So, does that mean he'll have to call me brother-in-law?" I pulled out a chair and sat down opposite her. The intern, looking guilty, quickly made an excuse and left. Seeing my expression was still grim, Victoria moved to the seat beside me, shaking my arm coquettishly. "What, are you jealous?" When I didn't respond, she added, "He's just like a brother to me. It's his first day, so I thought I'd treat him to a meal." I turned and looked at her coldly. "Do you know what kind of restaurant this is? And what day it is today?" Panic flared in her eyes again, a note of desperation in her voice. "Sincere, I was wrong. I wasn't thinking. But I really didn't mean anything by it. It was Ethan's first day, and this is a place we come to often. The food is good, so I just wanted to bring him to try it." Seeing the tears welling up in her eyes, which didn't seem like an act, I finally nodded. But a thorn of doubt had been planted in my mind. Seeing me nod, Victoria breathed a sigh of relief. She had all the dishes cleared and ordered a new set. Throughout the meal, she served me food and peeled shrimp for me, as if terrified I was still angry. From the day I first met Victoria Ashwood, she had always projected this sweet and docile demeanor. We met in college. She was one of the 3 universally acknowledged campus belles, with a sweet, innocent beauty. Her family was said to be very strict, forbidding her from dating in college. Countless men pursued her, but none could win her heart. So, when my grandfather told me she was my fiancée, I wasn't opposed. After we got together, men still tried to get her number, but she politely refused every single one. 2 years in college, 3 years in the professional world, and I was the only man by her side. I was very satisfied with her sense of propriety. But today's events smelled of something different. We had planned to get married by the end of the year. Now, I had to re-evaluate the viability of this marriage. Should I cut my losses, retract my initial investments, and switch to a marriage partner with a lower risk factor? Or should I choose to trust her, increase my investment, and forge a deeply integrated partnership to build a future together? It would all depend on her performance from here on out. 3 days later, there was a financing roadshow. Victoria usually accompanied me to major business events like this, occasionally offering her own opinions. Over the years, I had invested in many excellent companies through these roadshows, including 2 unicorn companies that brought substantial returns to the Clark Corporation. This time was no different. Victoria, dressed to the nines, was on my arm, looking graceful and poised, Previously, at such events, Victoria would never look at her phone. This time I counted. In less than an hour, she had checked her phone 27 times. I caught a glimpse out of the corner of my eye. She was typing furiously, a sweet smile unconsciously gracing her lips. The tenderness in her eyes was something I had only seen when we first got together. Smiling so sweetly, I said calmly, "Is something making you happy?" Victoria froze, her smile instantly vanishing as if she just remembered I was there. She looked at me apologetically and quickly turned off her phone, putting it away. She looped her arm through mine. "No, it's nothing, just gossiping with my girlfriend. You know, girl talk. Why would the CEO of a major corporation like you be interested?" I narrowed my eyes at her, a smirk playing on my lips. "Oh, is that so? Which friend?" Victoria's eyes flickered with a moment of panic, but she quickly regained her composure. "Someone I just met a few days ago." I nodded slightly and said no more. Seeing that I didn't press the issue, she let out a huge sigh of relief. "All right, don't overthink it. After the road show, let's go out for dinner. A new restaurant just opened, and their steamed sea bass is excellent." Victoria had known for a long time that I was allergic to cod and sea bass. In all the times we had dined together, she had never once ordered those dishes. But now, she had forgotten. I turned to look at her, my eyes filled with deep disappointment. "Victoria, do you remember what you said when we got engaged?" Victoria was stunned for a second, then smiled sincere. "Of course I remember. I, Victoria Ashwood, will only love you, Sincere Clark, for the rest of my life. I will never lie to you, hide things from you, or do anything to betray you." She snuggled into my arms, her smile radiant. "Sincere, you know you're my whole world. I'll love you, and only you, for my entire life." I stroked her hair as if no one else was around, and she nuzzled against me like a gentle, obedient kitten. Perhaps because she hadn't replied to the messages, her phone kept buzzing, and then it rang jarringly. Victoria grew agitated, reaching for her phone several times but not daring to take it out. I thoughtfully let her go. "Go on, take the call. It might be important." She hesitated, looking at me. Seeing nothing unusual in my expression, she relaxed. She took out her phone and walked to the side to answer it. After hanging up, Victoria returned to my side, her eyes apologetic. "Sincere. Something urgent came up at the office. I need to go back and handle it personally." I nodded, expressing my understanding. "Go ahead. Don't let work be delayed." Victoria, as if granted amnesty, leaned in and gave me a light kiss on the cheek before turning to leave. After she left, the remaining project presentations were lackluster, so I didn't stay either. The moment I got back to my office, photos from the private investigator arrived. Ever since the incident on Valentine's Day, Victoria's every move had been under my surveillance. After leaving the event, Victoria didn't go back to the office. She went straight to an amusement park. Ethan Miller was already waiting for her. They went on every single ride together. In the photos, their smiles were radiant, the affection in their eyes impossible to hide. In one picture, Victoria was eating an ice cream cone, and Ethan was carefully wiping a speck of cream from the corner of her mouth. Victoria's eyes were downcast, her face as red as a ripe apple. In subsequent photos, they were chasing each other on the carousel, Victoria's white skirt fluttering in the breeze. She turned to look at Ethan, a breathtaking glance, the light in her eyes brighter than the stars. The most glaring photo was taken at the very top of the Ferris wheel, where they made a heart shape with their hands in midair. Every picture radiated a thick, ambiguous intimacy. My assistant, Mr. Harrison, soon knocked and entered, placing Ethan Miller's complete file in front of me. Interesting. On the very day Victoria and Ethan reconnected, she gave him a watch worth over $1 million as a reunion gift. While not exorbitant by my standards, it still clearly showed her affection for him. Ethan Miller was no simple character either. Though young, he had been kept by several wealthy older women during college, indulging in every vice, drinking, gambling, and womanizing. What was more interesting was that Ethan had scammed a considerable amount of money from these socialites, only to anonymously donate it to someone else, Vivian Shaw, the most beautiful girl at their university. The file showed that Vivian and Ethan were high school classmates. Ethan had pursued her for 3 years in high school and 2 in college, but never won her over. Later, Vivian's mother fell gravely ill, requiring massive medical fees. They sold their house and car, but it was just a drop in the bucket. It was then that the pretty boy Ethan Miller accepted the patronage of wealthy women, funneling most of the money he acquired to Vivian through anonymous donations. I understood everything at once. This Ethan Miller was a freeloader through and through, a gigolo who used his prettier-than-a-woman face to prey on rich women, and this time his target was Victoria. Given that she hadn't engaged in any physical relationship with him and that our marriage was arranged by my grandfather, I considered my options. My grandfather and Victoria's grandfather were sworn brothers. Grandpa Ashwood had saved my grandfather's life. They had long ago agreed to a childhood betrothal for their children. Unfortunately, they both had sons. The promise was passed down to our generation. When my grandfather told me about this, I agreed after only 3 seconds of thought. I have a thing for looks, and I was likely destined for an arranged marriage anyway. In that case, the drop-dead gorgeous Victoria seemed like the best choice. Before he passed, my grandfather repeatedly told me to treat Victoria and the Ashwood family well, and for years that's exactly what I did. The Ashwood family had fallen on hard times, their company teetering on the brink of collapse. It was only with my support that they barely managed to stay afloat. The villa they lived in, the luxury cars they drove, they were all gifts from me. After some thought, I decided to give her one last chance. When Victoria returned that evening, she seemed to be in a good mood. She was holding a gift box, humming a little tune as she skipped inside. Seeing me on the sofa, she sat down beside me as usual, snuggling into my arms. "Sincere, I passed by the bakery and bought you your favorite matcha pastries." I took the box and placed it on the coffee table, my voice devoid of emotion. "That's thoughtful of you. How did things go at the office? Was it smooth?" Victoria's soft body stiffened for a second. "Oh, it was nothing major. It was resolved quickly." I looked up at her. "Oh, really? Did you happen to go to the amusement park today? I was on the phone with a friend who thought he saw someone who looked a lot like you." Victoria's face changed. She forced herself to remain calm. "No, of course not. I was at the office all day. I wouldn't have the energy for a place like that. Besides, if I really wanted to go, I'd want you to be with me." I didn't respond. Instead, I handed her Ethan Miller's file. She looked at me puzzled. "What's this?" She hesitated for a moment before her curiosity got the better of her, and she opened it. The file detailed every wealthy woman Ethan had been with since college, complete with names, dates, and many intimate photos, even pictures of him carousing at nightclubs. The further she read, the darker her face became. By the end, it was completely black. She slapped the file shut and slammed it onto the coffee table with a loud crack. "Sincere Clark, I've already explained to you that there's nothing between Ethan and me. Do you really have to fabricate this fake file to slander him?" She was trembling with rage. She picked up the file again and tore it to shreds. "Sincere, I've known Ethan since we were kids. I know what kind of person he is better than you do." After saying this, she stormed out. I stared coldly at her retreating back. This woman, who had always been so gentle and obedient in my presence, was now baring her teeth at me for a pretty boy. "Everything your family has, I gave you. But if you have no sense, then I'll take it all back." I took out my phone and saw a video clip the private investigator had sent an hour ago. In the video, Victoria was driving Ethan home. As they were saying goodbye, Ethan suddenly pulled her into an embrace and kissed her on the lips. Victoria was visibly stunned, but didn't push him away. After Ethan left, she sat in the car, dazed, for a long time before reapplying her makeup and driving off. I called the private investigator. "Where is Ethan Miller right now?" He quickly gave me an address. I immediately called my assistant. "Mr. Harrison, Ethan Miller is at the Empress Lounge right now. Arrange something. First, have him crippled. Then contact Vivian Shaw. I want to see her tomorrow." "Understood, Mr. Clark." At the Empress Lounge, Ethan Miller was drinking happily with a few of his degenerate friends, but he kept feeling a gaze on him. He turned and saw an innocent-looking beauty, dressed like a student, drinking alone. Her clear, wide eyes met his. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. A veteran of the nightlife scene, he knew that a naive, inexperienced girl like this was the easiest to score with. It looked like a night of passion was guaranteed. He quickly stood up, grabbed an expensive bottle of liquor, and walked over. "All alone, little lady?" Ethan was a master of seduction, and with one line, he cut to the heart of her loneliness. They hit it off immediately, drinking until they were both dizzy. The girl was a lightweight and soon passed out on the booth seat. Ethan rubbed his hands together in excitement, quickly taking her out of the bar and to a hotel room he had booked in advance. But just as he had stripped her naked, the girl suddenly woke up. In a panic, she unleashed a series of brutal kicks to his groin. Ethan never expected her to be so strong. His groin was beaten to a bloody mess, completely ruined. It wasn't over. The girl started crying, insisting she would call the police and accuse him of rape. Ethan, who had been writhing on the floor and howling in agony, was instantly terrified. He fought through the pain, begging her not to call the police. Seeing his pathetic state, the girl took pity on him and decided to let him go, even thoughtfully calling an ambulance for him. In his heart, Ethan wanted to kill her, but on his lips were words of endless gratitude. The next day, I met another woman in my office, Vivian Shaw, Ethan Miller's unattainable love. He had pursued her for years without ever so much as holding her hand. Later, he gave away most of his wealth to her through anonymous donations. Looked at that way, I suppose Ethan was a martyr for pure love. The first time I saw Vivian Shaw, I was stunned by her beauty. She was more beautiful than Victoria, and younger. She had a captivating figure, her skin was flawless, so supple it looked like water would drip out if you pinched it. She wore a linen midi skirt that barely contained her exquisite curves, and it was hard to tear one's eyes away from her long, slender legs. No wonder Ethan had chased her for so many years, willing to give everything for her, acting as her guardian angel and chasing away countless ill-intentioned suitors. I flipped through Vivian's file and smiled at her. Miss Shaw, with your credentials a campus belle and a top student, you must have countless admirers. I'm curious, why have you never been in a relationship? Vivian was clearly taken aback for a moment. Then she told me her mother's story. Mr. Clark, when my mother was young, she was famous for her beauty all over the county. She started dating at 16, and from what I know, she had more boyfriends than she could count on both hands. But when it came time to get married, her reputation was ruined. No one dared to marry her. She had to move to a new place to live, but unfortunately the result was the same. Men were only interested in her looks. Occasionally, an honest man would want to marry her, but having seen all sorts of men, my mother naturally looked down on them. Later, she got pregnant and had me. She wasn't even sure who my biological father was. Everywhere she went, people would point fingers and gossip. I moved from place to place with my mother, living a very hard life. When I was little, I often didn't even have enough to eat. I thought I would spend my whole life in poverty. But then our luck changed. She found a rich man. Yes, just as you're thinking, she became his mistress. Our lives gradually improved. We lived in a mansion, drove luxury cars. But the good times didn't last. My mother cheated again. She was sold off to Southeast Asia. Although she was luckily rescued later, her body was ruined. She contracted a host of diseases and developed kidney failure. She told her mother's story without any emotional fluctuation, as if the protagonist was a complete stranger. I asked, puzzled, "So, are you disillusioned with love, or have you lost all faith in men?" A hint of cunning appeared in Vivian's eyes. "Neither, Mr. Clark. I just think my mother was too foolish. Beauty is a form of capital, but unfortunately she didn't know how to leverage it. A rare commodity can fetch a high price." It dawned on me. This woman was a top student for a reason. She was truly intelligent. Vivian continued, "I just feel that my mother gave herself away so casually. What man would truly cherish her?" My admiration for her grew. I cut straight to the chase. "Miss Shaw, I will cover all of your mother's medical expenses. I'll also give you a living allowance of $50,000 a month. I will arrange a villa for you in the Orchid Hills community, complete with 3 maids and 2 personal bodyguards. And if you bear a child, there will be an additional bonus." Vivian stood up gracefully and extended a slender hand towards me. "Deal." I looked into her eyes and said, "Word by word, of course. You are not to engage in any transgressions." She smiled beautifully. "Rest assured, Mr. Clark. My mother's story is a profound cautionary tale. I need to inspect the goods first." Of course, dealing with intelligent people was indeed time-saving. I have a private lounge behind my office. Although Vivian had been composed during our negotiation, when it came to the crucial moment, she was clearly nervous. She held me tightly, her nails digging into the flesh of my back. To my surprise, I felt a pang of protectiveness. I could feel her whole body trembling slightly. More than 2 hours later, she fell into a deep, contented sleep in my arms. I had an important meeting that afternoon. I didn't wake her, carefully slipping out of the lounge. After the meeting, I immediately canceled Victoria's supplementary credit card and had Mr. Harrison, along with bodyguards and lawyers, forcibly repossess the villa and luxury cars I had given to the Ashwood family. That evening, Victoria was dragged to my house by her mother. The woman, dripping with jewels, was bowing and scraping, a fawning smile on her face. "Sincere, if Victoria has angered you, I'll make her kneel and apologize. Your marriage was settled long ago. Please don't let a small matter ruin the relationship between our two families." I looked at her with a cold smile. "Mrs. Ashwood, it's not that I, Sincere Clark, am unreasonable. I have given your daughter many chances. She's the one who didn't cherish them." Mrs. Ashwood glared at Victoria. "You wretched girl, what on earth did you do? Hurry up and apologize to Sincere." Victoria stared at me defiantly. "Sincere Clark, all I did was get a little close to Ethan Miller. Not only did you slander him, but now you're dragging my family into this over such a trivial matter. What's wrong with you?" her mother exploded. How had her once sweet and obedient daughter suddenly become so unreasonable? She slapped Victoria hard across the face. "You wretched girl, I told you to apologize to Sincere." Victoria clutched her red swollen cheek, her eyes red-rimmed, but she still refused to admit she was wrong. Mrs. Ashwood was trembling with rage, but she had to swallow her pride and bow her head to me, a man of a younger generation. I chuckled softly, my voice still calm. "Mrs. Ashwood, you should first find out what your precious daughter has done. This is not something an apology can fix." Only then did Mrs. Ashwood realize that Victoria's mistake was not as simple as she had claimed. She gripped Victoria's arm, her knuckles turning white. "What did you and that Ethan Miller do?" Victoria winced in pain but clenched her jaw, her expression stubborn and unyielding. "Mom, I told you I just got a little close to Ethan. We're innocent, what's wrong with that? For years I've done everything Sincere wanted. Don't I have any freedom? I don't even have the right to be close to another man. We're not even married yet, and he already wants to control every aspect of my life. If we really get married, what kind of life will I have?" I looked at her with scorn. "Victoria Ashwood, everything your family has, I gave you. If you wanted to have a few male friends, I wouldn't have blamed you, but you need to have a basic sense of propriety and boundaries. But what about you? On Valentine's Day, you took Ethan Miller to a romantic restaurant for a candlelit dinner. While accompanying me to a business roadshow, you checked your phone 27 times in an hour, chatting enthusiastically with him, lying to me that you were gossiping with a friend. You said you were going back to the office to handle something, but you ended up spending the whole day with him at an amusement park. You say you two are innocent? Then how do you explain this photo of you kissing?" I threw a stack of photos in her face. "You say there's nothing between you? What about your dignity?" The photos scattered on the floor, the one on top showing Ethan holding her and kissing her. Victoria's face turned deathly pale. She stumbled backward, her earlier defiance melting away into frantic evasion. No, it's not like that. She scrambled to pick up the photos, but her fingertips trembled so much she couldn't grasp them. Mrs. Ashwood was livid. She finally understood the unforgivable mistake Victoria had made. She knew that countless families were vying for a marriage alliance with the Clarks. If not for the old kindness from my grandfather, her family would never have even been considered. And now, with this scandal, the Clark family would never give them another chance. In a fit of rage, Mrs. Ashwood lashed out, physically attacking Victoria, looking like she truly wanted to beat her to death. I waved my hand, and the bodyguards moved to escort them out. "Mrs. Ashwood, if you want to discipline your daughter, do it at home. Don't dirty my floors." This time, Victoria was truly scared. Her cries grew more distant. "Sincere, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I'll never do it again." The next day, I had my assistant release an official announcement on our website, canceling all cooperation with the Ashwood Corporation. Their company was already barely staying afloat. 90% of their orders came from the Clark Corporation. The announcement was a death sentence. Victoria finally panicked. She called me 99 times that morning. I ignored every one. In the afternoon, she showed up with a large bouquet of roses. I had security remove her. When I went to the parking garage after work, Victoria jumped out from a corner but was quickly intercepted by my bodyguards. Her face was full of pleading. "Sincere, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have lied to you. I really regret it. Please give me a chance to change. I'll never do it again. We were supposed to get married at the end of the year. You can't do this to me." My tone was mocking. "What, you think I'd still want you? Victoria, it's not that I didn't give you a chance. I even laid out all of Ethan's dirty laundry in front of you so you could see the truth. But how did you treat me? Victoria, there's a line of women who want to marry me, plenty of better candidates for a marriage alliance. Why should I give another chance to someone like you, who enjoys everything I provide, yet spews lies, takes everything I give you while always looking for something more, and has no sense of contract or loyalty? Victoria shook her head desperately, large tears streaming down her face. No, it's not like that. Sincere, I was wrong, but you've misunderstood Ethan too. He's not that kind of person. With that, I lost all desire for even a final conversation with her. I got into my car and sped away, leaving her in the dust as her heart-wrenching sobs faded behind me. For the next while, Victoria kept trying to corner me everywhere, but my bodyguards always stopped her. The Ashwood Corporation didn't last 3 months before declaring bankruptcy. My assistant excitedly reported to me that Victoria was now with Ethan Miller, that Ethan was a real character. He was already crippled as a man but was still stringing Victoria along. A few days later, Mr. Harrison reported that Victoria had sold all her luxury goods, raising over $3 million for Ethan to start a business, only for him to gamble it all away. They were seen arguing on the street, drawing a crowd. My assistant asked if I was interested in watching the show. I checked the time. I had nothing better to do. I took Vivian and a group of bodyguards and headed out. From a distance, I saw a frail figure that looked like Victoria. She was wearing plain clothes, her skin was rough, and she looked haggard. Victoria's looks were already a step below Vivian's, but now the gap was 1,000,000 miles wide. She was holding Ethan's hand, her voice choked with tears. Ethan, you said you needed startup capital. I gave you everything I had and you used it to gamble. How could you do this to me? I thought to myself, Ethan used to indulge in every vice, but now all he had left was drinking and gambling. Ethan shoved her away. You're the great heiress of the Ashwood family, and this is all the money you have? If you're broke, then we're breaking up. Stop bothering me, get lost. Victoria's eyes were filled with disbelief. Were you only with me for my money? At this point, the crowd started pointing at Ethan, calling him scum. Seeing the situation, Ethan's expression softened. Victoria, I just had a bit of bad luck these past 2 days. Do you have any more money? I'll definitely win it back. When I do, I'll pay you back everything, okay? Victoria finally saw a glimpse of Ethan's true colors. She slapped him across the face. Ethan, are you even human? If it weren't for you, would I, Victoria Ashwood, would my family have ended up like this? The slap ignited Ethan's fury. The pretense on his face twisted into a snarl. He rubbed his cheek and threw caution to the wind, slapping her back. His voice dripped with sarcasm. Victoria, get it straight. Who was the one who gave me watches and money? Who was the one who wanted to be with me? Now that your family is broke, it's suddenly my fault. Victoria was knocked to the ground, her eyes filled with despair. Ethan stepped forward, looking down at her. Victoria, do you still think you're the precious Ashwood heiress that Sincere Clark cherished? If you didn't have some money left, do you think I, Ethan Miller, would have wasted my time with you this long? Just then, he caught sight of Vivian Shaw in the crowd and froze, as if struck by lightning. When he saw me beside her, his face turned even paler. Ethan tried to rush forward but was blocked by my bodyguards. Vivian, why are you with Sincere Clark? No, Vivian, you can't be with him. He's just taking advantage of your innocence. Everyone's eyes turned to Vivian. Many gasped, for the woman was breathtakingly beautiful. Her exquisite features, captivating figure, and cool, elegant aura were mesmerizing. Every glance, every smile stirred the heart. It was hard to look away. Victoria, of course, saw us too. She was completely stunned, her mind a blank slate. Faced with Ethan's accusations, Vivian's expression remained unchanged. She said flatly, "Who I'm with, does that have anything to do with you?" Ethan suddenly broke down. "No, you can be with anyone, but not him. Not Sincere Clark." His voice was choked with tears, full of pleading. It dawned on me. He must have figured out who was behind his injury, but he had no proof. He hated me to the bone but was powerless. He couldn't accept that the woman he was willing to sacrifice everything for was now with the man he despised most in the world. I looked at Ethan, my eyes full of mockery. "Ethan, you still have the energy to worry about Vivian? Why don't you look behind you?" When he turned, a sight that terrified him to his soul appeared. 7 or 8 large, wealthy women were storming towards him, murder in their eyes, looking like they wanted to eat him alive. This Avengers alliance of scorned socialites had, of course, been arranged by my assistant. These women, usually so arrogant, couldn't swallow the fact that they'd been played by a pretty boy. Ethan Miller, you little bastard, you ate my food, drank my wine, scammed my money, and then cheated on me, Ethan. I'm going to kill you. You're a real-time management master, juggling all of us. The scene that followed was brutal. Ethan was pinned to the ground by the women and beaten relentlessly. His screams, like a pig being slaughtered, echoed through the street. The women were vicious, showing no mercy. They grabbed, pinched, scratched, punched, and kicked. One even took off her high-heeled shoe and started bashing his head with it. Ethan scrambled to protect his head. Ethan, you damn freeloader, you goddamn liar, what did I tell you when I was paying for you? How dare you find someone else? Spit out all the money I spent on you over the years. Hey, how did this guy's third leg get broken? I had to admit, these socialites were fierce. They nearly ripped Ethan's pants off. The surrounding crowd erupted in laughter. Ethan, overcome with shame and rage, desperately tried to pull his pants up. The women tormented him until he was half dead, then threatened to drag him to the police station. Left with no choice, Ethan knelt and kowtowed, begging for mercy. He ended up writing a pile of IOUs for huge sums of money before they finally let him go, but not before they warned him to pay up within a month or pay with his life. Witnessing this, Victoria was filled with a regret so deep it felt like her intestines were turning green. She looked like a soulless puppet, her eyes vacant. Only now did she finally know that everything I had told her was true. And now, Ethan wasn't even a man anymore. She had broken with Sincere Clark for this piece of trash, this cripple. Not only did she sell all her possessions to fund this scumbag, but she also dragged her family into bankruptcy. She once had a bright future as the heiress of the Ashwood family, the future wife of the CEO of the Clark Corporation. Now, she had been played for a fool by Ethan and had lost everything. Victoria turned to look at me, like a drowning person grasping at the last straw. She dropped to her knees with a thud, sobbing uncontrollably. Sincere, I was wrong, please, don't give up on me. I'll never do it again. Sincere, please forgive me, okay? I'll never contact Ethan again. We can get married. I'll be a good, dutiful wife. I'll behave myself and live a good life with you, okay? Please give me one more chance. Victoria knelt on the ground, crying so hard she could barely breathe. I looked down at her coldly, my eyes empty of any emotion. Victoria, don't you think it's a little too late to be saying this to me now? I turned to look at Vivian. Her gaze remained as calm as still water, without a trace of pity or schadenfreude. She simply stood quietly by my side. In that moment, the contrast between the two was stark. One was a disheveled, pathetic ex, kneeling and begging for forgiveness. The other was an elegant, serene partner standing with me. Victoria seemed to realize it too. She knew there was no going back. I saw the despair return to her eyes. She said nothing more, just picked herself up, lost and dejected, and walked away. I watched her lonely, retreating figure and thought back to the first time I saw her. She was wearing a pink floral dress, her hair in a ponytail, her skin flawless, beautiful as a dream. She loved to snuggle in my arms, both gentle and playful. The Victoria of that time was bright and dazzling. It's a pity she made the wrong choice, and she would have to pay the price for it. Ethan's deadline to repay his debts was 1 month. With no other options, he hounded Victoria every day, refusing to believe she was truly out of money. Victoria, having been scammed out of everything by him, already hated him to the core. Unable to bear his constant harassment, the next time he showed up at her door, she plunged a knife into his heart. My assistant told me the news while I was accompanying Vivian to a prenatal checkup. The doctor said it was twins. I was so overjoyed that I set off fireworks all night in celebration.